This past weekend, I took the Osmo Pocket with me to 2 different weddings, and I really pushed this camera to its test. Now, I've been using this thing for a couple of months now, and I am constantly wanting to push this little camera to the test to be able to determine how good is this camera actually, and is it good enough to replace a mirrorless or a DSLR camera? I mean, it's a fraction of the price, and up until now, the quality has been absolutely amazing. But I want to know, can I use it professionally? Everything that I've done up until now has been just YouTube content, stuff for social media, ultimately things that are not necessarily paying me to create content for. But I wanted to bring this thing along to a couple of paid shoots and see if I could tell a difference between my cinema grade camera and this little $300 camera that's just blowing everyone's mind right now. And by the way, you're hearing audio from the DJI Mic 2 that comes in the creator bundle. You can buy the Osmo Pocket in 2 different packages, the Osmo Pocket 3 actually. You can buy it in 2 different packages. You can just buy the camera, or you can buy it as a creator bundle, which is what I did. And you get a mic, you get a battery extender, a couple of different grips, some lens modifications, a camera case, a whole bunch of different stuff. But I'll list the prices like right here, what the difference is, but it's only like a couple $100 extra for all of that stuff. But anyways, I took this camera with me this weekend to 2 different shoots. One was my own wedding. It was one that was based down in Savannah, Georgia. And then I also had a styled shoot that I helped out with on Sunday. And it was held in like one of the most prestigious, like highly regarded, upper echelon, luxurious wedding venues that Atlanta has to offer. It's called the Swan House. Absolutely gorgeous. And I thought, what better time to use this little camera than right now? So I first want to talk about how I got some of the clips, or like how I was able to film with the Osmo Pocket, because for some of the shots I did film it handheld. Some of the shots my second shooter helped me out with, and some of the shots I got comparisons using my FX3 on my gimbal and the Osmo Pocket 3 also on my gimbal as well. So I posted that on my story on Instagram, the little rig that I created, if you will. I posted that on my story on Instagram, and a couple of you guys wanted to know how I was able to attach the Osmo Pocket 3 to my gimbal, and I want to show you that real quick. All right, so here's the rig. It's really simple, honestly. It's an RS2 with an FX3, a zoom lens, and then I have 2 different handles on my gimbal. One is this one made by Small Rig, and you can actually move it up and down, but I use it for like underslung shots. And then this one over here is just for extra stability. I kind of like being able to just like hold my gimbal with 2 hands instead of the like pistol grip type situation. I just find that this gives me way more support, and I'm able to manipulate my gimbal a lot more efficiently. So this little arm right here is by Nicey Rig. I think that's how you pronounce it. And it has a bunch of 1/4 and 3/8 threads on the top right here. And I just have a 1/4 arm attachment right here, and then on that little mounting arm I have the F38 quick release system by Falcam. I use that on all my cameras and all of my tripods, and that's just how I attach everything. If you don't use a quick release system already, I highly recommend the F38 system by Falcam, and it's just a press of a button and I can take my camera off of anything and I can mount it on anywhere the base plate is. So I have a base plate on here, and then on the bottom of the cameras I have the actual like mounting plate, and I've actually even mounted this on like Manfrotto mounts too. But this is on the bottom of the Osmo Pocket, so all I do is just slide the Osmo Pocket right on. And now I've got my FX3 over here, but I also have the Osmo over here, and there's plenty of clearance. So any way the gimbal moves up, down, side to side, it's not gonna hit the Osmo Pocket over here. and it just works perfectly. Really simple, really easy. This little mounting arm was maybe like 10 bucks, and the foul cam system's maybe like 20 bucks. So for like $30, it's an amazing little hack, if you will. All right, so there were a couple of things that I realized when I was using the Osmo Pocket 3 to film my weddings. And the first thing was the limitation of the lens. Now, I'm not a prime shooter, I'm a filthy zoom shooter, and the lens on the Osmo Pocket is very, very wide. It's definitely not meant for shooting weddings, I don't think. It's more so meant for like vloggers, content creation, and like if you're vlogging and doing like talking heads, you can have multiple people in your frame. But there were a lot of like detail shots that I wanted to get like nice close-ups of maybe like 50 millimeters or 75 millimeters or even 85. And it's just not possible with the Osmo Pocket. Everything's wide. And yeah, you do have the option to crop in and post, and yeah, you can film in 4K, but the sensor on the Osmo is not as big as a sensor on a mirrorless camera. So you will see some artifacts, you will see a little bit of noise, and that's just part of accepting the fact that this is a couple $100 camera. For the sake of what I was trying to film and use it for, I was purposefully only using it for things that I knew I wanted wide shots of, but I still would have really wanted to be able to zoom in a little bit more than I was able to. Now, again, you can shoot in 4K on the Osmo Pocket and you can punch in and post, but the sensor on the Osmo Pocket is not the best. It's not anything in comparison to my FX3, for example, where I can crop in quite significantly and there's no real change in my image quality. I started realizing that once you start cropping in on the Osmo Pocket 3, even though it does have a really good sensor for how big it is, you're going to start noticing some artifacts, some noise in the image if you start cropping in a little bit too much, and that's ultimately kind of defeating the purpose. So if you're going to do something like this, just make sure that you're shooting things wide and you're framing yourself accordingly for that. There was a setting that I had not even realized was necessary to change until I really started trying to film like slow-mo cinematic stuff with the Osmo Pocket, and it was actually the speed of the joystick. It's in the settings menu on the Osmo, and you can access it either from the DJI app on your phone or you can just access it right on the Osmo. But the actual speed of the joystick can control the movement of the actual camera. And I think it goes from 1 to 10, 1 being super slow, 10 being super fast, and it came standard at 5, or at least my unit did. And I never was a fan of how jerky the camera was, and I just chalked it up to maybe this is just a limitation, because I swore that I had dug into the menus and tried to find a way to smooth that out. And it wasn't until I actually did a quick Google search to realize that I was looking right over the setting for smoothing out the pan and the tilt of the actual camera itself with the little joystick. So I actually found that changing the sensitivity of the joystick from where mine was at 5 all the way down to 1 was able to really mimic the slow and cinematic movements that I can do with my RS2 on the actual Osmo Pocket 3. 1 was a little bit too slow sometimes. I missed a couple of shots here and there using the Osmo because the gimbal on the Osmo Pocket was moving so slow. So I ended up finding that like the 1 to 2 range was something that was really beneficial. But again, if you're considering to shoot a wedding with this camera, that's something else that you got to be ready for. Another limitation that I found, and not really a limitation, but yeah, it was a limitation, was just the inability of the Osmo Pocket to keep up with the dual native ISO on the FX3. We were filming in some pretty dark spaces at some points, or even when I was at the Swan House and we were filming some shadows that were outside, I ended up having to turn on low light mode. Now, even though low light mode is absolutely amazing and it helps out a lot in those dark scenarios where you need to be able to have flexibility to expose your image a little bit better and a little bit brighter, there is a limitation with using low light mode, and it's that you cannot film in 4K 60 anymore. The highest resolution you can film in low light mode is 4K 30. Now, for you, that might not matter, but for me, I film quite a bit of stuff in 4K 60 and slow a lot of stuff down in post. That was a little bit of a limitation for me because there were some shots that I really wanted to just get like really buttery, smooth, slow-mo shots of like different cinematic pieces throughout the day, and I didn't really have that option because I knew that once I put the 4K 30 footage on my 24 FPS timeline in Final Cut, there was going to be a lot of tearing, screen tearing, and optical flow can only do so much. So were there some limitations to the Osmo filming it on a wedding day? Sure. But ultimately, is it a solid choice if you're just starting out? Absolutely. Now, for me and probably a lot of other filmmakers that are watching this that may already be well established into their career, there's another limitation that I haven't talked about, and it's one that, especially if you're doing this for weddings, should not be overlooked. A wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and even though it may be fun to film someone's wedding on such a cool piece of tech, the biggest limitation is that the Osmo Pocket does not have any way to dual record on 2 different SD cards. I find that to be a just hands down non-negotiable. For something that's as important as someone's wedding day, I don't take any chances with SD cards corrupting. Every single one of my cameras, and we run sometimes 4, 5, 6, 7 cameras on wedding day, all of them have 2 SD cards to make sure that if any SD card corrupts, we always have a backup. And I would be very cautious with trusting one singular micro SD card to hold someone's precious wedding day. Take that information how you will, but let me know if you guys decide to film a wedding on the Osmo Pocket. I haven't seen too many videos on YouTube about it, and I'd be curious to see how like a full, actually like edited out wedding film would look from the Osmo Pocket. I think that'd be really dope. Down in the description box are a bunch of discount codes for photography and videography gear and a whole bunch of like free trials for websites and whatnot for different partners that I have. So be sure, if you're in the market for pretty much anything, look down in the description box below. And also be sure to head over to my Instagram and give me a follow over there if you want to stay up to date with all of my day-to-day antics. For nothing else, I'll see you guys in the next one.
But when we touch down, it's like